You've probably heard the verse, I form the light and create darkness, I make peace and create calamity. I, the Lord, do all these things. It's one of the most unsettling lines in the Bible. If God creates calamity, does that mean he's responsible for evil? And if so, how do we reconcile that with a loving God? 1. The verse that shakes faith. Isaiah 45 verse 7 does not just raise questions, it feels like a theological earthquake. If God creates calamity, is he the author of suffering? This is not just academic. It hits home when you're staring at a hospital bed or a broken relationship. The Hebrew word used here for create, bara, is the same word used in Genesis 1 verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is not just any word for make, it implies something only God can do. So when Isaiah says God creates calamity, it's not a side note, it's intentional. But here's what changes everything. The same God who allows suffering is the one who stepped into it. Jesus did not just explain pain from a distance, he experienced it firsthand. That's either terrifying or comforting, depending on how you see him. 2. The problem we cannot ignore. Evil exists. Pain exists. And if God is all-powerful, why does not he stop it? This is not just about philosophy, it's about the moments when faith feels impossible. Think about the last time you asked, why would God allow this? Maybe it was a miscarriage, a betrayal, or a diagnosis that shattered your world. The problem is not just intellectual, it's visceral. Philosophers call this the problem of evil, but when you're the one crying in your car at 2 a.m., it's not a problem, it's an open wound. And yet, the Bible never dismisses that pain. Lamentations, Job, even Jesus on the cross, Scripture gives us permission to scream, my God, why? 3. Here's the first glimmer of hope. Before we spiral, let's pause. The Hebrew word for calamity here is ra, which can mean moral evil, but also natural disaster or hardship. Context changes everything. The word ra appears over 600 times in the Old Testament, and its meaning shifts based on context. Sometimes it's moral evil. This is not wordplay, it's a lifeline. If God creates calamity in the sense of allowing consequences, like a judge sentencing a criminal, that's different from him delighting in suffering. The key? Sovereignty does not equal cruelty. A surgeon causes pain to heal. God allows pain to redeem. 4. What if evil is not what we think? We assume evil is a thing God made, like a tree or a star. But what if evil is the absence of good, like darkness is the absence of light? Imagine holding a flashlight in a pitch-black room. The darkness is not a thing. It's what happens when light is absent. Augustine argued evil works the same way. God did not invent evil any more than a songwriter invents off-key singing. Evil is what happens when good is twisted, rejected, or ignored. That's why Satan is not called a creator. In Scripture, he's a distorter, a counterfeit. He cannot make anything new. He can only corrupt what God made good. 5. The free will factor. God did not create evil. He created the potential for evil by giving us free will. Love cannot exist without choice. But here's the catch. Choice means some will choose wrong. Picture a father teaching his toddler to walk. He could strap her into a chair forever. No falls, no scraped knees. But she'd never learn to run. Love requires risk. God could have made us robots, programmed to obey, but love is not real unless it's chosen. The heartbreaking truth? Some will choose hate. But the glorious truth? Some will choose love, and that love will cost everything. 6. The turning 7 gets misread. God allows calamity, but he does not delight in it. Big difference. When a hurricane hits, we do not blame the ocean for being wet, we blame the storm. In the same way, God's sovereignty over evil does not mean he authors it. A judge allows a prison sentence, but he did not commit the crime. Isaiah 45 verse 7 is not a confession. It's a reminder, even in chaos, God is in control. That's either infuriating or reassuring, depending on whether you trust his heart. 7. The story of Joseph, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned. Joseph's life was calamity after calamity. Yet he later said, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery out of jealousy. Potiphar's wife falsely accused him out of lust. The cupbearer forgot him out of negligence. None of those were God's doing, yet God used them. Notice Joseph did not say, "God caused my suffering." He said, "You meant evil, but God meant it for good." There's a universe of difference. 8. The purpose behind pain. This does not make suffering easy. but it means God can weave even the worst moments into something greater. When a wildfire burns a forest, it looks like pure destruction. But ecologists know some seeds only germinate after intense heat. Pain can feel like an ending, but what if it's a necessary breaking for something new to grow? That does not mean we call suffering good. It means we trust the gardener. 9. What about natural disasters? If God creates calamity, is he behind earthquakes and hurricanes? Or is nature simply operating under the curse of a broken world? Natural disasters are not God throwing tantrums. Romans 8 says creation itself is groaning under the weight of humanity's rebellion. Hurricanes and earthquakes are symptoms of a world infected by sin, not direct punishments. But here's the hope. One day, there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain. Until then, God does not waste our grief. 10. The most misunderstood word, create, in Isaiah 45 verse 7 can also mean permit or ordain. God is not micromanaging every tragedy. He's sovereign over a world where tragedy exists. Ancient Hebrew does not have a word for allow, so sometimes create carries that sense. For example, God hardened Pharaoh's heart, but Exodus shows Pharaoh hardened his own heart first. God confirmed Pharaoh's choice. He did not override it. Sovereignty is less about micromanagement and more about ultimate authority. 11. The Satan factor. The Bible never calls Satan a creator. He twists what God made good. Evil is a parasite, not an original creation. Satan's first move in Eden was not to create a new fruit. He hijacked the one God made. Evil always piggybacks on good. Lust distorts love. Greed distorts provision. Even crucifixion, a brutal Roman tool, became the means of salvation. Satan's greatest weapon? God turns it into a shovel to dig graves for evil itself. 12. The game changer. God does not need evil to exist, but he can use it to accomplish his purposes. That's the paradox. When a chef uses spoiled ingredients, it's not the chef's fault, but a master chef can still salvage the meal. God does not need evil, but he's so powerful he can cook up redemption from the devil's worst recipes. That's not a cop-out. It's the gospel. 13. The cross is proof. The worst evil in history, the murder of God's Son, became the greatest good, our salvation. If God can redeem that, what cannot he redeem? The cross was Satan's idea, the religious leader's idea, Rome's idea. Yet Acts 2 verse 23 says it was also God's deliberate plan. How? Evil men acted freely, yet God wove their choices into his rescue mission. If God can recycle the murder of his Son into salvation, what cannot he redeem? 14. Why this matters today. If God is behind evil, prayer is pointless. But if he's sovereign over evil, prayer changes everything. If God directly caused cancer, praying for healing would be nonsense. But if he permits suffering in a broken world, while having power to intervene, then prayer changes everything. That's why James 5 verses 14 to 15 links healing to prayer, not fatalism. 15. The Job perspective. Job suffered horribly, yet God never explained why. He just revealed who he was. Sometimes that's enough. Job's friends gave tidy answers. You must have sinned. God never endorsed their theology. Instead, he showed up, not with explanations, but with presence. Sometimes, I am with you matters more than here's why. 16. The danger of oversimplifying. Saying God causes evil ignores the complexity of Scripture. Saying God has nothing to do with evil ignores his sovereignty. Truth is in the tension. Balance is not lukewarmness. It's holding two truths in tension. God is sovereign. Evil is real. Both are true. Deny either, and you either make God a monster or a mascot. 17. The hope in the tension. If God can use evil for good, then no pain is wasted. That does not make it hurt less, but it gives it meaning. A mosaic looks like chaos up close, just broken shards. Step back, and it's a masterpiece. We're too close to see the full picture, but God promises one day we'll stand back in awe. 18. The practical takeaway. Next time you face calamity, ask, God, what are you redeeming here? Not, why, but what now? Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, wrote, when we cannot change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. That's not resignation, it's rebellion against meaninglessness. 19. The atheist challenge. If evil disproves God, what's the alternative? Random chaos? At least with God, there's hope beyond the pain. If the universe is random, then a child's cancer is just bad luck. But if God exists, then that child's pain, while still horrific, is not the end of the story. 20. The love test. A parent lets a child fall while learning to walk, not because they enjoy the tears, but because growth requires risk. A toddler does not understand why dad will not let him play in traffic. From his limited view, dad is cruel. But love sometimes says no, even when it hurts. 21. The ultimate answer. God's response to evil was not a lecture, it was Jesus. He entered the darkness to bring us into light. Jesus did not just defeat evil. Up there, on the cross, he entered into it. When you're suffering, you're not alone. God is not watching from a distance. He's in the fire with you. 22. The invitation. Evil is not a problem to solve. It's a reality to overcome. And we overcome by holding on to the one who overcame first. Evil wins if it drives us from God. But if it drives us to him, even Satan's worst becomes a detour to deeper grace. 23. Your turn. Have you ever wrestled with this verse? Let me know in the comments. What's your take on God and evil? This is not just theoretical. Maybe you're wrestling with this right now. Tell me, where do you struggle most with God and suffering? 24. The warning. Don't let this question drive you from God. Let it drive you to him. The answers are not always clear, but he is. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. It's the proof you're engaging. Even Jesus cried, "Why have you forsaken me?" God can handle your questions. 25. The final word. Isaiah 45 verse 7 is not a threat, it's a promise. Even in calamity, God is working, and that changes everything. Isaiah 45 verse 7 ends with hope. I, the Lord, do all these things. Not some things. Not only the happy things. All, including your pain. And he's making it into something you cannot yet imagine. Conclusion remains unchanged. This expansion adds depth, context, and emotional resonance while staying true to the original script's tone and structure. Each edition conclusion. If this video made you think, hit like and subscribe. But more importantly, if you're facing darkness right now, know this: God is not distant. He's in the mess with you, working even when you cannot see it. Share this with someone who needs that truth today.